Here is a compilation of some advanced tips and tricks for Nioh 2, you learning bastards. A lot of times I have questions about which secondary weapon you should use in Nioh in combination with the primary one. There can be only one, and that is an axe. Reason behind using axe as a secondary weapon is because it has 3 buffs that you can activate at all times, and they apply to other equipped weapon as well. You can have all 3 buffs active at the same time, but you need to go to axe skill customization and put each buff into each stance. Be warned that axe buffs do not stack with magic buffs if they are of the same type. That means, for example, if you use Rage from Axe, then that attack buff will be overwritten if you use Power Pill or Carnage afterwards. They do not stack. That's the great thing about Axe. It grants you free magic whenever you want. Many players that are new to Nioh 2 still don't know about Hidden Tea House. I don't blame you. I completely forgot about this feature and played almost through whole first playthrough without even activating Hidden Tea House. Why is it so important? It is important because here you can choose a clan to be aligned with. These clans are connected to Nioh's PvP system, but the bonuses from these clans also apply to single player and offline mode as well. These bonuses can be really good and sometimes even essential for some builds, so definitely check Hidden Tea House from time to time. Clans also have ranks, and by going up the ranks you can further upgrade these bonuses. This can also be done by donating specific gear and specific tea utensils. On this screen you can see things clan you are aligned with needs at this time. There are many good guardian spirits in Nioh 2, but there is only one that is the best. In my opinion, if you don't know what to do with your build, if you are uncertain how to up the performance, how to get more out of it, then you go with Tengen. Extended elemental attack, anima gained through elemental attacks are all good bonuses, but the best thing is stance based Amrita bonus. This means whenever we absorb Amrita, we're gonna get specified bonus. Now this only works when we gain Amrita, and against bosses we cannot gain Amrita because they release Amrita when they are killed. Well, there is a spell called Extraction from Omnio Magic Tree that extracts Amrita every time we hit an enemy, and that is why I use it almost all the time versus bosses. So now we can get this buff. What is so great about this buff, you might ask? Well, for starters, you can switch through stances and apply all 3 effects at once. They will not overwrite each other. Also, these boosts are quite powerful. You might think because it's based from Guardian Spirit that they might not rival something like Power Pill or Carnage or Steel Talisman. Well, actually they are better. They don't have debuffs and they are quite powerful on their own. On top of all that, these buffs stack with same type buffs that can come from magic, ninjutsu or other ways. That means if you apply high stance Amrita bonus that boosts attack from Tengen, it will stack with Power Pill or Carnage or Rage X buff. That is huge because it can lead to some massive damage potential. Now let's talk about smithing texts and how to farm armor sets. This is pain in the arse system that Nioh has that honestly pisses me to hell and back, and I hate it with passion. You are more likely to win a lottery than for armor smithing text to drop. It's very RNG based and you just need luck. There is nothing you can do except bring that luck stat up as much as you can. One of the ways to do so is to apply Luck Bringer spell every time before a boss fight, or even in the middle of the fight if fight is long and tough. Another good way to get that luck stat up is by wearing Children of the Sun set. This set provides boosts based on luck status, so you can have this set equipped at all times when farming these smithing texts, and it can bring your luck up significantly. It's still a shitty RNG system, but there you go, at least this might help bring that stat up. However, there are better ways to farm sets, thankfully. Best way to farm sets is through revenants. They can't drop smithing texts, but they will drop set pieces. Revenants are created in online mode when other players die at that specific spot. It will say how they died and you have to hold circle button to summon them and then fight them. Upon defeating them, they will drop gear that they are wearing. This can be 1, 2 or 3 pieces of the equipment that they were wearing at that time. Use paralysis traps to make this farm a lot faster. There are other smithing texts that can drop from various bosses as well. These are not only armor and weapon sets. Skill smithing texts can also drop. I'm sure you have seen these empty nodes in Learn Skills menu. These empty nodes mean that there is a skill that goes in it. Of course, getting these texts is pain in the arse, as well as sets, and unfortunately there are no revenants that can drop these, so you're gonna have to defeat bosses over and over again. As always, try to bring that luck stat up to get higher chance of obtaining these texts. Here is a trick that works against bosses in longer missions where you don't want to repeat mission over and over again just to get to that boss. Use the shrine before a boss fight, then go and defeat the boss, but do not go forward. I mean, do not quit the mission, do not finish end or whatever. Instead, after picking up all the items that the boss dropped, close the application and start the game again. Game will put you back at the shrine before the boss fight, so you can kill boss over and over again for that priceless smithing text. Elemental damage is a real problem in Nioh 2. Use elemental stop talismans from Omnium Magic Tree against bosses, because it helps tremendously since elemental damage goes through protection talisman spell. There are also stats that can be obtained through tempering. Torso piece can have elemental damage taken reduction and helmet can have elemental damage taken reduction when blocking. These stats can make bosses much more manageable, so I would recommend grabbing them when possible. Also, here is one little trick when you are on fire. Roll by pressing dodge twice to significantly decrease burn duration. When talking to Blacksmith, you can see that there are different options and patternage levels that you can use to decrease purchase price, increase sell price, and so on. Level these however you want, but more importantly, when you unlock Muramasa, there will be more options that are more important. The best option to level up as soon as possible is to get rare materials from disassembling, because the rare materials are truly rare in Nioh and you're gonna need them to craft specific sets. Now to clear confusion about upper level limit and lower level limit. This does not affect divine ranks of forged gear, instead it affects level range of forged gear, meaning levels from 0 to 160. Let's give you an example here. If you're crafting a sword that has a lower limit of 135, let's say, and upper limit of 150, by upping lower limit +1, then that lower limit will not be 135 anymore, it will be 136. By upping the upper limit, then you might craft a weapon that is level 151 instead of 150. Now that that is clear, let me show you how to craft divine gear, because it can be kinda difficult to spot. Divine gear is unlocked after completing all story missions in the first playthrough, and you can craft divine gear by going to the forge and then pressing triangle button. Now you can put up to 10 divine fragments to increase chance of obtaining divine gear. Divine fragments can be obtained by disassembling divine gear, and also they can drop sometimes from enemies. After clearing the game for the first time, then you might start seeing some weapons that have +1, +2, +3, all the way to I think maximum is +5 next to their level. These weapons are quite important, because you can remodel them. Remodeling for weapons means that you can change of which stat they will scale, and by what rank. Almost every weapon scales of its primary stat by some kind of B rank. By using remodeling, you can now make that weapon scale from that same stat but with A rank instead. You can do so also with tempering, but now you know that you can do it with remodeling as well. Armor pieces and accessories can also be remodeled. Just don't ask me please what standard version of remodeling does for armor, because I have no clue. In Nioh 2 you can temper accessories as well. It is kinda hard to notice this, but you can do so by going to all armor pieces tab or all items and then scrolling to any accessory that you want to temper or remodel as well. I have talked about how difficult it is to get necessary rare materials. Here is another way to get them. By using resting rights option to dispose of unwanted soul cores, you will get rare materials depending on the type of soul core you are disposing of. For example, if you choose to use resting right for Yoki soul core, then you might get Demon Horn. This is very useful to do once in a while, because it can net you decent amount of rare materials. Here are a couple of quick tips as well. There's one thing you should know about tempering. You can only have one damage stat on one weapon. This means if you have, for example, melee damage in general, then you can't have, for example, high active stance skill damage, high stance damage, low stance damage, and so on. There are some exceptions to this. You can roll final blow damage and grapple damage next to that one single damage modifier. Key damage is also an exception, because it doesn't affect enemies' health but affects enemies' ki. Same thing for armor. You can only have one resistance type on certain armor piece. So if you have fire resistance, you can't have any more resistances. Be mindful of these things so that you don't go overboard in spending money and materials just to get something you can't get. In Nioh there are many buffs, but the game lets you have up to 6 by default displayed under the health bar. You can change that by going to the options menu and increasing or reducing the number of displayed buffs. So if you were wondering why you don't have a buff that you should have, it's probably because of this option. It's not that the buff wasn't active, it was just because it wasn't displayed. One more option that is important to know about is the number of quick bars. By default there are only 2, which means you can have up to 8 items slotted in these shortcuts. However, there are 2 more quick bars that you can unlock by just going to the option and reducing or increasing number of quick bars available. By scrolling over the world map, you might find your cursor turning from blue to red. This means there is an item that you can pick up by simply pressing X button. You know those little bastards that are kinda the opposite of Kodamas? Well, they are called Sudamas, and they want an item from you. If you give them Noble Dung Ball or Dung Ball, you might receive Book of Reincarnation. That is, in most cases they will drop purple item. That purple item can be Book of Reincarnation, or it can be many other things. It's all RNG, cause this is, well, Nioh. They can also drop Kodama's Soul Core if you give them any Soul Core. You know those chests that spawn imitation of you? Well, you don't need to fight them. Do the same emote they are doing and they will drop rewards instantly. You might also get Mujina Soul Core by doing so. Alright, that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for more Nioh 2 videos.